High voltage family, we are working on our prime mover for our 70 Impala again today. In the last video, we really broke something bad. So it is now time to see all the new stuff we have. It's like Christmas again. We have a couple boxes behind me packed full of expensive stuff because this is an engine. We bought ourselves a nice Proform piston ring compressor for the standard bore 454. Make sure you stick around until the end of the video because like always, we are going to show you exactly what we have into this 1970 Impala with our 454 big block prime mover. That way, if you're looking to restore a car at home and you have no idea what you're in for and you want to know about what it's going to cost, you can have a rough idea and I'm going to help you decide if you want to restore that project or not and show you what it costs to really do this stuff in real time. I had to go and buy an entire set of new piston rings again, all because I just broke one ring. These are really nice, they work good, they're like a cone, but the only downfall is you can only use them for the particular bore that you're working on. So if you're building 10 different size engines, you're gonna need 10 of these, which kind of stinks. But I don't build many engines here at High Voltage Diesel, so I am okay spending the little bit of money that it took to do this to make sure that I don't have to buy another set of piston rings. Finally, my piston ring pliers came in the mail I was waiting for last time. I put all these rings on by hand the hard way, spreading them, and it was a real pain because I didn't think that tool was gonna come, but we got it all done. And that's how it goes. The tool shows up after the work is done. But at least we can kind of use it a little bit. So before we get to the true goodie box, first up we have wheel seals. Those are for the rear axle on this car that we are going to get to at a little bit later date when we do the brake. This right here that just looks like a box is a gasket cover for a 10-bolt Chevy rear end, because when we do the seals, we're going to need to pull the cover off. And this box right here, in case you haven't guessed by the picture, is a water pump for our prime mover. We will get to that a little ways down the road when it's time to actually put the water pump on, but we are not even close to that yet. So let's get to our actual goodie box. Got just a couple plastic bags to start. Next up, what do we got? More engine parts, of course. We have valve spring locks for a couple upgrades we're gonna get to. Next up, we have some valve spring guides for our next update we're gonna get to. Oh boy, I think you're guessing kind of what direction we're going with this motor on our next little bit of assembly. We have some comp cams, hydraulic flat tappet lifters. Not roller lifters, this is a budget build, come on. I bet you can already guess the next thing I'm gonna pull out of this box. Oh yeah, this is our Summit Racing brand camshaft. We will get to this in just a little bit when we get to finishing the unboxing. Next up, we have our Summit double roller timing chain set. Ooh, that kind of goes along with everything else we're pulling out of this box. Last but not least, Comp Cam's valve springs. Well, you can probably guess kind of the next step that we're gonna do on our big block Chevy. And that is the end of an $800 box of goodies. Oh, we're gonna go bankrupt on this car. Now we can put our new ring on. Hopefully this goes pretty smooth. Very good. We'll put our top ring back on. Very good. This tool was worth the 15 bucks or whatever it was I paid for it. This is right where we left off 2 weeks ago. check this thing out. This thing's pretty nice. I think this thing is gonna serve me pretty well. This is pretty nicely made. I got this from Summit Racing. This wasn't bad price either. I was pretty impressed on how cheap one of these were. Definitely gonna work out better than that other junk did. We're just gonna get everything oiled up here a little bit. Just to recap, as far as the gaps go, I just got one ring gap on the wrist pin side and the other ring gap on the other wrist pin side. And with the oil ring, I got a gap here and a gap here. All right, wish us luck. Gonna grab our connecting rod from the underneath so we make sure we don't score anything. Oh, beautiful. This thing literally already paid itself off. Wow, what a beautiful tool this is. I mean, that was worth any day. That was literally the most painless. I've never had one of those cone compressors. I've always used the band ones, and I've always hated them, but I've always been too cheap to buy one of the cone ones. Trust me, buy a cone piston ring compressor for your application. I've never had this be so painless before. If you watch the other videos, you're gonna see that we plastic gauged everything because we didn't go to the machine shop, and we just want a little bit of an extra peace of mind that we're within our tolerances here. So I'm gonna clean this rod off with brake cleaner, and then I am going to put a bearing in once everything's all nice and clean. I'm gonna roll our bearing in there like that. I cleaned all the oil off of the journal. I'm happy with the way the bearing fits in the rod. We're looking good. So remember in the last video, our plastic gauge was just a really, really thin strip like this, just as not much bigger than a piece of hair. Put our rod cap on here, nice and easy. Trying not to knock our plastic gauge down in the spot where it don't belong. The rod bearings are always a little bit harder to plastic gauge because they move around a lot more, where the mains, they're very simple because nothing moves. The rods move a lot, so it's kind of hard to get an accurate reading. We'll just take our time here. That's what we do at high voltage diesel. Speedmaster says that these rods go from 65 to 70 foot-pounds of torque. So we are gonna torque our bolts down evenly here. We don't just want to torque one right down. We got this set to 65 foot-pounds. So we torqued this thing, now we loosened it. Let's take this thing back off, see what we look like as far as clearances go. We could see right here that we got, this isn't super accurate because of how twisty and turny we are, but looks like this is saying we got about 0.003. From what I looked at, the rods and the mains were pretty much the same oil clearance, 0.002, 0.003. It looks like we're in pretty good shape. This definitely was a little bit loose when I wiggled it, but they are supposed to have some play in it for sure. We're gonna take our plastic gauge off and do a final assembly on this thing. We got everything nice and clean. We're gonna put a little bit of oil on this. Gonna spin our crank right into place. Throw this baby back together. 65 foot-pounds. When we were dry, we had quite a bit of play in this thing. There was a lot of back and forth movement, and now that we assembled this with oil, we cannot get any play out of this bearing at all. There is a film of oil between this crank journal and this rod bearing. And that is the entire point of what we're checking right here, because you want a film of oil around that. You do not want anything touching. So that's why it's important to get this stuff right, because if your gap is too big, the oil's just gonna run out faster than what it can flood the bearing, and you're gonna get slap. If you get it too tight, you're not gonna have enough oil clearance. So now we know we can safely rotate the crank a little bit and make sure nothing's gonna bind up. Make sure our piston's not making any funky noises. We're in good shape. So how about we do the rest of them just the same way we did this one? I absolutely love this ring compressor. If you are going to build an engine, spend the extra money and get one of these. It's like effortless just to, and these pistons just go in so nice. This is amazing. Whoever invented this thing should be a millionaire. This engine assembly has been going almost too good. Everything has been working out absolutely fantastic. All the tolerances are pretty much exactly the same. They're all about 3/1000ths of an inch, which was on the looser side, which we're okay with. Last but not least, number 7. Just absolutely beautiful. I am in love. Well, she's a V8 again, so does it actually spin like a V8? Are we free all the way around? Boy, it sure looks like it. I don't hear any funny sounds. I don't feel anything binding. This is just great. Oh yeah. Look at her go. So this is exactly how stuff gets expensive with these motors, because one thing just leads to another. So let's explain the story on our camshaft. So there's the original sad looking camshaft that came out of this, which is actually in really good shape. But we're going through all this, putting dome pistons in. We don't want to put a stock cam back in. As I was doing my last statement, my GoPro just quit working and I can't figure out what it's on. So the good old cell phone comes out. We want something that's got a little bit of a cool idle to it. Summit Racing hooked me up with a really good cam. I think that'll fit the build perfect. This is a Summit Racing 1066 cam. It's got 519 thousandths lift on both the exhaust and the intake, and they're both 284 duration. So hopefully what that's going to do is that's going to give us enough rumble to be noticeable. It's definitely going to give us a little bit more power, because I think the stock cam is around 440 lift or something like that. The extra lift is definitely going to let this old girl breathe a lot better. And we are going to run the stock torque converter in this thing, which I believe is a 1800 stall. So we can't get too crazy with a cam, because it'll just stall when we put it in gear if it's really aggressive. I like aggressive sounding cams, but I really don't want to spend another $500 on a torque converter. Really what I prefer to do is to put the cam in before the crank goes in. Well, the block is upside down, because then you could just reach right in and grab the cam and help it through. However, with this scenario, we had the crank ready way before we ordered our cam. That's just the way it is sometimes, and that's what we have to deal with. We're gonna put a little bit of oil on there. I don't buy assembly lube separate. I just use Lucas engine oil stabilizer. But since it comes with it, why not just use it? We're gonna put a little bit of Lucas on our distributor gear. As far as the bearings go, we're just gonna put a little bit of oil on there. So let's help our first portion of this installation very carefully go in. And there we go. We're just gonna work our way in nice and slow, no rush. You don't need to lube this thing right up on the lobes. Put the lifters on, it's just gonna wipe it right off anyway the first time you crank it. And what am I thinking? I gotta pull this train wheel thing off here. So we're not gonna have room. It's alright, I swear we know what we're doing. This is where it comes in handy to have the gear on it, because you could just grab it and just help steer this thing right into place. Like that. So we have one of these adjustable where you can advance or retard the cam timing. This is a case right here where we don't have the right tools for this job, and you could never beat old Hammurabi. It just, they work every time. We're just gonna send this thing home and make sure it's in all the way with our little piece of aluminum rod here. We don't have the correct tool to install this, but that's okay. You could tell when these are in all the way if you got even the slightest bit of common sense. You can hear the pitch change. You can hear that nice little ring when it bottoms out. Okay, let's put this thing right back together. There we go. Our entire short block is assembled right now, and that means we're in really good shape. We have our cam, our timing chain, our pistons, everything is checked. Everything just looks beautiful. As far as the heads go, we have a lot of work to do with the heads. First thing I gotta do with these is disassemble them and then bring them over and pressure wash the ever-living crap out of them, because you could see what's going on right here is these things are just really, really crusty, especially in the water jackets and all that. We got a lot of work and wire brushing, and we're gonna do some valve lapping and all that. And we had to get new valve springs because our cam with the 519 thousandths lift, the stock valve springs for this motor will not work with that lift. So I had to get new valve springs, and with that I got to get new keepers and locks and everything. So that's the kind of stuff that makes these projects expensive. You want to put a little bit of upgrade in something, then you got to upgrade 5 other things to compensate for that upgrade. But I think it's going to be well worth it. This thing is going to sound sweet. I sandblasted and painted the harmonic damper, our timing cover, and a couple other things. I really wanted to get the timing cover put on, but unfortunately in my gasket kit, you could see right here, they sent me the wrong timing cover gasket. At least it looks like it. This one's got like a flange on it here, and this one does not. So I'm gonna have to figure this out and see what the deal is here. I don't understand what that is. I'm wondering if you just pound it in and the flange sticks out, but it just doesn't seem like that's the way it goes. We are gonna go over our prices and what we have into this car right now, the way it sits. That way, if you're building a car at home, you know what you're in for. Our scoreboard definitely went up dramatically on this episode of High Voltage Diesel because we spent quite a bit of money right here on this cam and timing and all this stuff. So let's go over what we have. We have bodywork materials right here. We got $1,519. That's what we have into the bodywork of this car to get it where it is right now. And if you are curious about where it is right now and what we did, make sure you go back, visit my channel, and see some of the videos I did on this. You're gonna be surprised on what we found and how much work it took. But we did a lot of stuff. We pulled the glass out. We got everything. We're starting to paint. We got the glass back in. We did a whole bunch of rot repair on the quarters. This car, as it stands, is basically ready to paint at this time. We got new floors in it. We got a rear seat pan, a driver's side complete floor in it. We did a lot of work to this thing on the body. So for $1,519, we're not in bad shape as far as that goes. As far as the drivetrain, that is basically everything except the motor. So what we got is we bought a complete rear brake rebuild kit, rear seals, diff gasket. So far we have $276, and with our prime mover that is getting very expensive. That's usually the most expensive part of these builds. You could see we're just gonna pan down right here and show you what we paid for stuff. Again, prices change depending on what brand you go with. We went with decent, moderate stuff with this. We're not building a $20,000 race engine here. We are building a grocery getter, something fun, a cruiser, just to drive around, head down to the local car show. Nothing crazy. So we bought all kind of mid-range parts. We don't want to buy the super cheap stuff, but we're pretty happy with what we got. Where we really went up in this was our cam lifters, timing chain, and valve springs and all that garbage was $700. Our ring compressor was $40. We had to buy a whole nother set of rings for $45. The water pump was $65. That's what's new in this video. This is what we bought all the rest of the stuff. We got a really nice Chinese air gap intake manifold. that I showed on past videos, so make sure you check those out. There's some videos that are gonna pop up right here on these corners, and if you wanna see more of this 1970 Chevy, you make sure you click on those videos and then playlists, and you just watch away. You have a seat in your armchairs, get yourself a nice cold or hot beverage.
End of transmission.